were some questions that you were asked in job interviews that stick out in your mind? Judge Cook, you want to begin with that?
This was my favorite question I asked to answer because I don't recall exactly which class it was. It might have been professional responsibility, but something in law school told us what questions were legally proper to ask in a job interview and what questions were not. And we as women were all assured that we could not possibly be asked questions such as, do you have any children? Do you plan to start a family? When do you plan to start a family? How many children do you intend to have? So I thought, okay, fine. So come back to York County, take a few interviews in my senior year of law school. And at every single interview, which were all by males, I was asked, do you have any children? When do you plan to start a family? How many children do you plan to have, etc. To the point that about the third go-round, I thought, is this a trick question? Are they waiting for me to assert myself and say, you're not allowed to ask me those questions? But you know, when you're in your 20s and you're just coming out of law school, you don't really have that gumption to challenge the 50-year-old male sitting across the table asking you, do you have any children and when do you plan to have them?
Anybody else? Thank you. Anyone else want to add?
Any experiences? Fun?
We'll move on to the next question then. Have you experienced struggles in balancing your home life and work life? And if so, what were they?
See, the opportunity guy.
Yeah.
That's me. Let me say 3 words: work-life balance. And that's something we all hear now, but I don't know that I remember hearing those words back in 1981.
Yes.
And I would have to say that as one of the first women, and I don't even consider myself that, but you had to work harder. You had to prove yourself. I think we had to overcompensate. And I think if you weren't married, it was easier. I said, once you got married, it set another little shift in priorities for you. But God forbid when you wanted to have children. And it became hard. Most firms didn't have any policy on how long you could take off and when you would come back and who was going to do the work while you were gone and all kinds of things like that. I know for myself, my husband and I were kind of idealistic, and we said we didn't want to put our son into daycare, so we said, oh, we'll work half days. Well, that lasted 2 weeks. And then we got nannies. In my mind, if I got a nanny, that was better because my son was home and he didn't have to go to daycare. And so my good fortune was that I ended up having 3 nannies. So he turned about 12 and they had kids. And so it all worked out fine. But my point is this. In my opinion, when you're a lawyer, you hear in law school the first day, what is it? Law is a jealous mistress. And it is. And I think the person or one of the spouses, if the spouse is a lawyer, they have to sacrifice. And there has to be a spouse whose career is more flexible. My husband and I were both attorneys, but he was a sole practitioner. He was more flexible than I did. And so he took our son to all the practices. I was at all the games and I was at all the big events, but I had to continue to work, and I was expected to continue to work. And I think it's easier now. I do, because of the fact that now we have both parents that are working. We have mothers and fathers who are actively involved in raising their kids. And by the way, when I started, all my partners, their wives didn't work. So, they had everything taken care of for them. And you have to balance grocery shopping, cleaning the house, taking care of the kid. It's all that stuff. And then they would, when I get overwhelmed, and God forbid if I would get tears in my eyes, they would say, I just don't know how you do what you do. And I'd say, why are you placating me? Help me, figure it. But that was the way it was, at the time. I'll say that the women's liberation movement, which was really in the 80s, really helped a lot. And it got a lot of advances for us. But those are the struggles. Now, let's fast forward. Different struggles at this age. A husband who has significant health problems. So it's still balancing your work life and your home life and dealing with all those things. And that's not to say that men don't have the same issues, but still, I think in a large part, somebody has to take the lead and somebody has to be the one who oversees those things.